Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out, thanks and appreciation to Melby Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Joseph Pizarro, Samson, Maris, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, and a literalist Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Also below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. With that, I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and G+, so you can enjoy their conversation while I set up for today's live show.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hello.
I hate that damn hour.
Check that one out, Don. You'll love that one. Especially when they talk about doing science.
Yo,
Love it.
Nathan, what's up, man?
Hello.
Long time no see, man.
Hello. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be.
Hey, Nathan.
Morning, Nathan. I got a quick question.
Hey, Nathan. According to a recent poll, according to Irish Demon, Nathan Oakley is the absolute worst flat earther. Have you got anything to say about this recent poll, Nathan?
If it's a poll by
Who
a globe
takes this poll?
worst, what does that mean by their standards? Worst, as in
I don't know.
worst
Probably
for
the
them.
one that batters them the hardest.
Exactly, worst for them. Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
I was going to say that's a compliment.
If it was a flat earther saying Nathan's the worst flat earther, then that would be deeply insulting. But as it's a globehead saying it, then thanks very much.
Yeah, apparently there were 730 votes and Nathan won by 45%. That's almost 1 in 2. It's got to hurt that ballers, right?
Epic.
Well, I agree. Here's the worst flat earther you want to deal with.
Well, if you were their favorite flat earther, that would mean you would be a pushover.
Precisely. Who's the best flat earther? Oh, well, this guy. He's ace. You just go and tell him how it's a sphere, and he just stutters and stammers, and you just ridicule him and get on with your day. He's great. Who's the worst flat earther? Well, Nathan. It doesn't take any shit.
Yeah.
Never proves that we're on a sphere to him. What did you want to ask, Righteous?
Oh, I heard twice this morning that you don't have the link anymore for the Discord in your description.
Oh, really? I'll have to check that out after the show.
I'm not sure. I haven't checked. I just heard it twice this morning. That's all.
It will be still there. It'll just have failed for whatever reason, so I'll have to get a new one from Betty. Okay, thank you for letting me know.
Right.
No amendments made to the description. It's the same one for every show, and I just repeat the description information every time.
Right.
So it shouldn't have just vanished randomly because all the other stuff's still there. But I will double check. It might have done. I might have accidentally deleted it by sleepwalking into that particular part of the settings section and changing it, but I doubt it.
Right. And wait a second. On topic, I thought I was the best flat earther. So what are you guys saying?
Are you a pushover?
Me?
Are you a
No,
pushover?
but I don't really debate that much anymore. Once I come to a point where they don't see it, I just kind of all right, I've said all I had to say, and that's good enough for me. I don't press it too much.
I think you're the best moderator on Flat Earth.
Wow, that's a hell of a compliment coming from you towards Righteous. Good. I would agree. He's a very good moderator.
Bit like gravity. It's not a force. But you can
Let's
think of it as
just
a force.
leave it at that. Let's
I
just
got
leave
you,
it at that.
Anthony.
Thank you very
Boom,
much.
boom.
I know who the best flat earther is. It's got to be Bob Nodell, 15 degrees an hour.
Yeah.
Why would that make him then? Hold on. Do you want to clarify why would that make Bob Nodell the best?
Because he proved that Earth is a globe.
No, he did not.
Yes, he did. Come on, he's pushing gravity now. Everything's got a downward bias. Relative density does not explain the downward bias that we see everywhere. I heard it yesterday. It's clear as day.
You know how globe earthers have got that art of doublespeak? Well, Bob did it yesterday on Globebusters. He was talking about how Rachie with 5 zeros basically buys into relative density, and he started off by saying that she believes that relative density is the reason why objects accelerate. And then I listened to the gist of what he was saying, switched off, and then went and did something else because I'd heard enough. And then Neil obviously listened to the second part of it where he said that she was moving away from relative density. And obviously me and Neil then had a conversation, and I was like, I'm sure he said that he was on. She was doing one, and Neil was saying the other. And I said, like, let's go back and double check. So we went back and double check, and he was proper double speaking. On the one hand, he was saying that she believes in relative density. And then at the end of the conversation, she's pulling away from relative density. And I'm like, he's totally double speaking.
Can you explain something to me? Why does this matter? So, do you...
Well,
just preface the question. Do you, moving forward, want to sway people's opinion once they've realised that, in this instance, gravity is definitely not the bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space or mass-attracting mass, which all parties in this discussion would agree with. So moving forward, is it that you care about what they believe thereafter? Is that why you're concerned about it?
no, I'm
Not
just pointing out the
really.
tactic that he's using. The tactic is that he'll double speak like blurthers do when they're trolling.
Okay. How is this any different to somebody talking about ghosts and goblins or Bigfoot or something else that isn't necessarily something you agree with? It may or may not be true, but it's not necessarily a worldview rhetoric paradigm that everyone's stuck in, whatever you want to describe it as. We're talking about
I think you might be missing the point, Nathan. It's not about his opinion on the matter. It's about, I'll give you an example. Nathan is the best flat earther, and then 2 minutes later say Nathan's the worst flat earther, arguing it from both angles, regardless of his position. It's double speaking. You can't hold two positions at the same time that are contradictory. That's what he's doing.
Doesn't answer my question, though, does it? I'm questioning your motivation in terms of once all parties in this instance have relinquished 106-year out-of-date mass-attracting mass and pseudo-Riemannian force space being bent by the uneven distribution of mass, at that point, what concern is it? Just people looking for
A good
new
old
answers.
laugh, I suppose.
Who said that? Say again.
For a good old laugh, I suppose.
Just want to laugh at them. That makes us no better than ballers.
No, it's to laugh at ourselves for believing it.
That's the same thing. When you say ourselves, you just turn the finger on yourself, but ultimately segregating them into a subcategory and then pointing and laughing. No better than the ballers. If that's what we're doing, that's bad.
Good point. Good point.
So
I
let me
actually
answer.
have a reason.
Hang on, let me just address what Nathan's just said. Nathan started off by saying that it doesn't answer his question. I don't agree. It does answer his question. His question originated was along the lines of what difference to you does it make? And the difference it makes is not about the point he's making. It's the double speak that he's applying. That's the point I'm making. The double speak.
Okay, well, you started out by saying it's not about Bob's opinion, so it is specifically and only about Bob's opinion then.
No, it's about the double speak that he said. On the one hand, he's saying that Rachel's on the relative density side. Then he has an explanation. And then at the end of it, he says that he thinks she's pulling away from it. And I'm like, that's what ball earthers do. They double speak exactly the same way that Bob was just doing.
Yeah, and you're saying Bob's opinion is in contradiction. Yeah, I agree. But regardless of whether that's true, it's just one dude. Who cares? Lots of people contradict themselves. Why is this relevant?
Because the double speaking is a known tactic of certain types of people in this topic.
Everybody double speaks when they're in cognitive dissonance. Everybody. Without exception.
No, I think cognitive dissonance, you take a very strong stance on with one position and never concede the alternative, no matter how much evidence is presented
Wrong.
to you that you might not be right.
Incorrect. That's not cognitive dissonance. It's holding two positions simultaneously as both being true when they can't both be true at the same time. You can't hold both positions, i.e. you can't say, well, the Earth's both flat and sphere. If you are to assert that, then you're in cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance is that awkward feeling that you feel in your tummy when you're showing evidence that's contrary to your opinion and you still double down on your position. That's not my point with Bob. My point with Bob is that he is arguing, on the one hand, he's making a blue point, then he has a conversation about that point, and then at the end of it, he changes the blue to red.
If you don't mind, could it be that trying to hold a position of flat Earth? Are you taking it as in it's making us look silly?
I just think he's applying a tactic that ball earther trolls do, where they deliberately doublespeak to confuse and let's be honest, gravity is a confusing topic at the best of times, and Rachel's obviously on her journey where she's trying to work out what the hell's going on, and we've all been there. But it doesn't help when somebody on our side is basically doublespeaking, because it's like confusing it even further.
Right.
There's no need to.
Okay, I'll give you an
He's
example.
trying to push her in a direction.
Define,
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Just define cognitive dissonance for you. Cognitive dissonance in the field of psychology. Cognitive dissonance occurs when a person holds contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values, and is typically experienced as psychological stress. Blah 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 blah. It's about holding
That's
different contrary positions.
That's not what I'm saying Bob's doing. I'm saying that Bob's double speaking. You're saying he's in a state of cognitive dissonance, and I'm saying he's not.
Well, I would
He's
say it is.
deliberately confusing.
Okay, let me justify my position. To say that there is a downward bias is to contradict anything that goes up. There is no bias. You can't hold both positions. Gas does not go down, go boom, boom. So if you were to say, well, what about steam? Well, then you've got to hold both positions simultaneously. Downward bias and non-downward bias justified by the downward bias. Well, that's cognitive pain.
Yeah, that's not my point. That's not what I say he's doing. We all know that Bob argues that things go down with a bias, right? And we all know that balloons go up, right? So you're right in that context. But that's not what Bob's doing. Bob's saying to Rachel on the one hand that, well, he's saying to his audience on the one hand that Rachel's on the relative density side, and she clearly is. And then he has a conversation about it. But at the end of it, he's told everybody already that she's on relative density. But then he says she seems to be pulling away from relative density and going more, implying that she's going more towards the incoherent nonsense. However, that shift in his conversation it's intentionally deceptive, because that's not what he's been talking about for the last 5 minutes. He's been talking about the other side of the argument, and then he's double spoke it right at the end.
Yeah, but didn't you say earlier she doesn't even know the scientific method, really? So that's
the problem. She hasn't worked out how to deal with evidence from the scientific perspective. That's why she's kind of dancing around it and not quite knowing where to find her feet. But she'll learn, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, she's communicating with a
everyone.
science guy.
Hey,
I can
Brian.
science that.
Hey, Brian, save me from this.
Yeah, no, I can't, Nathan. I can't.
Gone straight, you can't.
I won't go into the details, but I can't. I have my own. If you think what Anthony's saying is bad, you don't want to hear what I have to say. So I'm not going to say anything.
Okay,
I think I know.
thank you, Brian,
I
for being
want to hear
so.
it.
Yeah, thank you for being so blunt.
I'll save
Yes.
you.
Okay,
I'll save you, Nathan.
No,
Excellent.
Nathan doesn't want it on the show, so we'll get, and Nathan doesn't want to get involved. Is that correct, Nathan?
Not at all. This is totally on topic. It's just, no, I don't want to get involved, but yes, I'm absolutely going to let it be discussed. So, as much as it's making me uncomfortable, I'm not going to stop the conversation. But if someone else does,
I
then
can
fine.
save you. I can save
Oh, is that
you,
10th man?
Yeah,
Well-
I can save you, Nathan. If you
Go,
exchange the, if you exchange the word density to destiny, it's a McFly moment.
I am your density.
That's
I always
good.
thought there was a
That's
bit
good.
more. Maybe
Do
there
you
is
know
some
what Darwin
context.
show?
I don't know if anybody else. That exact point, I've never mentioned it before. You've brought it up, so why not? Do you think there is some subcontext behind that mistake when he's talking to he's telling his father how to talk to his mother? Instead of destiny, he says density, right? You are my
Mhm.
density. Obviously
Yeah,
not.
it's the character of McFly. He's going to do that because he's awkward. But I'm not reading into it. I'm just trying to save you from. I
Sure.
came in there with a comedic moment.
It is a comedic moment, but I'm saying often these things have more than one layer to them, and I don't know if there is in this instance. As I say, I've I raised an eyebrow when I heard it, and I thought, I wonder if there's more to it than that.
Well, there
Same
is,
question.
because as Brian is saying, and as Anthony is saying, and as I've heard Bob double down against the scientific method on that one show when you went there with a good spirit to say, hey, if you're going to call something an experiment, you got to follow the scientific method. And then what he did there, he's doing now here with the subject. Same thing. Same Bob.
Okay. My
Nathan, I
reason
think
for
you're
asking
onto
Anthony,
something.
as we're not going to get away from the subject, the reason I'm like, what does this matter to you, is because of an overarching point, which is to say that we are living in a paradigm where we're on a sphere flying through a vacuum, etc., etc., etc. So in the
Well,
scheme of that, who cares if a couple of individuals, in this instance, Rachie and Bob, are drawing an alliance in terms of their, I'm going to call it what I see it as, a misapprehension in terms of relative density disequilibrium being assigned a downward vector that's mandatory, or a bias as they describe it, which is actually going to be paraphrased into incoherent dielectric acceleration. Now that, I hope, demonstrates that I've at least got a reasonable grasp of what's going on in terms of the argument, but I don't see it as very important. Now, if they were moving forward in that particular assertion and eventually proven right or wrong, it makes no difference to the current worldview. So why concern yourself?
I'm with you there, Nathan, because Bob has never said anything to me personal, but I think some of the people here, they've had other encounters with Bob, so I don't care about it.
Can I say something?
Why I view it as extremely important, Nathan, is we're trying to get out from underneath a load of people claiming things without having correct support for those positive claims. It's okay if you call it speculation or something you're looking into, but that's not the way, up to now, that's not the way it's been termed. It's been termed as a definite, as an actual cause. But this cause, this definite, is not being proven. We're trying to get away from all that. If you think about the effort that QE puts in to try to get away from all the nonsense, then we have to stop nonsense on our side. We have to stop that. Nip it in the bud, because otherwise that weed will grow.
Fine.
Wait.
Just go ahead, Righteous. Thank you, Brian. And yes, I follow your point. Go ahead, Righteous.
Look, we've said before there's no leaders in this community, right? We should just leave it like this. People have different opinions, different thoughts. I'm on the incoherent magnetism side.
Get out!
But when it comes to other things, I'm not on that side.
You're
when
not
it comes to
asserting
like
it,
the scientific method, I'm more on this side. But you see, there's
You're
like
not asserting it, though.
in this
Matter.
community, just like what was his name? Mark Sargent, right? Like everybody has their thing they contribute to the community, and let's just leave it at that.
Good.
And let others make their own choices.
Excellent. Nice comparison. So, as an example, models are reification fallacies. Yet, Mark Sargent holds up a pizza pie, pancake, disc, mouse mat, whatever the hell it is, with an azimuthal equidistant projection on it, and then utilizes that as a tool to get people to visualize the world in a different way. Now, I've sat down with Mark Sargent, I've had lunch with him, I've discussed this subject with him, and I understand the whys and wherefores of why he uses that tool. He also understands implicitly that it's a model, and that we don't live on models. And he's got all of his reasons lined up for why he would use that tool. Now, as an entry level into this particular subject, I am not going to give him a hard time over it, because I understand that he understands it, so why would I give him a hard time over it? He's using it as a tool, and his tool is very well sharpened, so I'm not going to knock that. Now, you're saying that this tool, being used by Bob in this example, isn't well sharpened. Well, then it's a dull tool, and it won't cut the mustard. So don't concern yourselves too much with it, because it's not the overarching paradigm. But you're making it that way. There's no such thing as bad publicity in the long run. So discussing this incoherent dielectric acceleration as a form of a downward bias replacement for gravity isn't going to get you anywhere other than promoting it. Now, in terms of, I can't remember, I think it was it you, Brian, that said, well, look at all the work QE's doing. That I'm 100% behind. Because what do you need to arm people with to recognise, not Bob, but anything? Aston Martin talking about their paintwork being science. It's the same exact principle. Yeah? Well, if you can educate people in what is and what is not science, then they'll recognise it for themselves. What you can't stop happening is the natural human tendency to seek out new models, to seek out new leaders, and to seek out new groups. people want to be part of a group and part of an alliance with a single motivation, and they're going to seek that out. And in this instance, if they're, I'll use the word in a coy way, gravitating towards Bob, so be it. Yeah? Now, if their nonsense in 100 years became the overarching paradigm, then I might be like of the opinion that, yeah, this could probably do with addressing, as everybody in the Western world thinks that dielectric incoherent acceleration, incoherent dielectric acceleration, my bad, is actually a downward bias we don't actually have. But that isn't the case. These are just good people looking for more answers, and they're taking a dogged view towards it. Yeah, dogmatic view, you're saying.
Yeah,
Then
but
say you're looking for it.
But then, Nathan, it's also good people like Brian who debate it, which it gets it, and says, "Show me the proof, please."
Exactly.
Don't correlate it, but just show it to us so that we can see what you're seeing. And they haven't done that yet. There's no downward bias.
Okay, so let's move on. Or you could hang around and forever arguing with them because you want to save the souls that want to be a part of that group. And I don't know, maybe I'm selfish. I don't care. Maybe that's selfish, but I don't care. Sorry if people take aversion to that.
Well, it's not about Brian. Let me finish. Okay. It's not about not caring. It's about addressing it in a civil manner. And Brian did that. Now, let's see how the other side responds. And then Brian's going to respond, or we're going to respond, this is their hot topic. So the back and forth I like, but it's got to be civil. And
they're not the other side.
I'm done.
That's the problem. They're not the other side, right? And if we start categorizing them as a faction or whatever, then go on.
The other side of the argument, not the other side like ballers.
It's not the other side of the argument. The argument is that we have a downward bias called gravity. That is not the other side of the argument. Our argument is with the Western world paradigm. And if you want to talk about gravity in that context, yeah, that's our opponent.
No, but in this subject of this incoherent, there's the side that says, show it to us so we can see what you're seeing. And then there's the side saying, well, it's there, but it's negligible and we can't show it.
Nathan, do you
leave me say something here.
Hold on, Brian. Sorry, just 1 second.
Okay.
Go ahead, Don Gio.
Do you think there's any bearing on this argument?
No.
On the downward acceleration, like, do you
there isn't
think there's
one.
anything there?
There isn't one. I just need to boil a kettle to disprove this.
Okay.
I know what the problem is.
Right. Can I go?
Sorry, Brian. I forgot my bad. So go ahead.
The problem is the argument's over with the ballers. Like they don't have anything left. And flat earthers, I guess, have been forged in fire. Like they're chomping at the bit for something else to argue.
I have to disagree with you, John.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
That's not what's going on here. What's going on here is the very people that the people who are claiming this as a fact should be addressing, they're not addressing. They're keeping those people who are us out of the conversation and claiming that we're not willing to have it, which is not true. But the problem is, I don't mind. I'm not married to relative density. What I mean by that is, if they can prove that there is a separate cause, then great. I have no problem with it. But I do have a problem with the starting of something as a claim, as a positive claim, going forward and being pushed forward by people with big channels, way bigger than what any of us have, as a fact. What about when the ballers show that they can't prove, the ballers show that this can't be proven? That only makes flat earth look bad. That we're coming up with big claims we can't support.
I don't agree with that. Right? If you see flat earth as a group, well then I don't want to be a part of that group, because the majority of that group is punted as a controlled opposition narrative. Now, flat earth is an overarching subject matter, but it's not a group. Now, if it was a group, like I say, I don't think it is, I wouldn't want to be a part of it for reasons like this. Because when you get into the exploratory position beyond what is currently still believed to be the case, which is Earth as a sphere in a sky vacuum spinning, then you're going to go down the weeds of exploration with somebody that potentially hasn't even been introduced to the idea that the Earth isn't a sphere. And that is going to be the case at some stage. While we're debating this now, there will be somebody who comes and watches the show that goes, so they're arguing about how gravity works. Just reinforcing the idea that there's a downward acceleration, a mass attracting mass, a bending space-time, an incoherent dielectric acceleration. Well, okay. Aren't we supposed to be fighting against all those things, given that none of them are demonstratable? So my position is there is no gravity. Now, useful, our own size, you could say that's a bit annoying. It is. Labels their incoherent dielectric acceleration as gravity for some reason. Well, I don't care. I debunk that.
Hey, Nathan.
That reflects all of us, though, Nathan.
Yeah, but you care.
That's the criticism. The criticism is, where do we see the downward bias?
Exactly.
Here's a really good one, though, Nathan. You take a bite at renaming dark matter dark gravity. It's hilarious, man. It's just hilarious.
Well, as long as it's being
Hang
talked about,
on, can I say?
It's kept in the consciousness and reified into existence, so long as it's being talked about.
Nathan, you cared when he called something an experiment.
I cared when an experiment that was associated directly with what I actually considered to be our opponent was attributed to a flat earther. So in this instance, Coriolis deviation at 15 degrees now was attributed to Bob, making Bob a scapegoat for our opponent. And given that he, at the time, didn't appreciate how that was being utilised or how it manifests to the public, I wanted to step in to address that, specifically because it is then in connection to the direct opponent, which is the sphere Earth. Well, when it comes to this assertion of gravity, if they were using what Bob said to prove not mass attracting, mass bending space-time for the sake of argument, then yeah, I'd step in, I'd care. Because it's reasserting a nonsense assertion in pseudo-4 space that's currently the paradigm that everyone will believe if they Google search it. Nobody's going to find this connection to incoherent dielectric acceleration and gravity if they Google search it. So who am I concerned about? The minority that already know the Earth's not a sphere and they're now off in La La Land looking at something else? Well, good for them. Hopefully they'll find something. More power to them. Do I want to fight them? No. I've got bigger fish to fry. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below the video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Arwin joining in the middle of the introduction, Eli, Father of a Stolen Child, Neil, Sleeping Warrior, the Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So, welcome, one and all.
Good Monday.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello.
You're here.
Good to have you all. Let's kick off with housekeeping. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No.
None whatsoever. They don't even know what it is.
Yeah, nah.
I do have.
I might have a bit.
Nah, you haven't got a bit. There's no evidence. For
Don't tell me he hasn't
what
got
are you
it.
talking about?
If you
Hello. Hello. Go ahead, Adam.
I've just witnessed a little bit. It's got to be Einsteinian, but the Americans are all out of kilter because somebody's bent some time over there, and they didn't know what time the debates were starting.
I was going to say that's only evidence of the tilt of the Earth, but not the rotation.
Right, daylight saving time is.
What?
Hold on a second,
The
Nathan.
tilt?
They both stole my thunder.
Yeah.
That was mine.
Right, space time isn't bending. Yeah, moving the clocks isn't bending time, or no, afraid not.
I think what's happened is they've moved the clocks back a couple of weeks before Europe have. So I think that's because they've tilted a little bit more towards the sun. So they've got to correct that a little bit before we have. So we're tilted a bit more away from the sun, and they're a little bit towards the sun, and that's proof of Earth turn.
That's my proof because I got to change my clocks twice a year.
What are you
Therefore,
babbling
Wait a
about?
minute, I thought they had it all
changed
figured
the
out.
clocks back for an hour, so now all clocks have been transported 1,000 miles to.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Oh no,
No.
So I do have a question.
Four-dimensional effect.
A little bit of pseudo, maybe.
I do have a question for anybody that believes in the incoherent dielectric magnetism point, and any ball earther that thinks that there is a gravity that's a force that's not a force, it hasn't been a force since World War One. So I've been thinking about the 2-litre bottle of pop or soda for the last couple of days, weeks maybe, and it's dawned on me that there's a problem. And the problem is that if there is a downwards acceleration, and that gas molecules, because molecules are solids, because they say that the molecules, therefore they're solids, and therefore they behave like bouncy balls, then there must be an explanation for the following problem. Because bearing in mind that on their model, we're in a gravitational field, and bearing in mind that CO2 is more dense than the nitrogen and the oxygen that we're currently breathing, when you take the lid off the bottle of pop, it goes flat after a day or two. What's the explanation for those gas molecules that are not only defying relative density and in a gravitational field? What's the explanation for them jumping out the top of the bottle if gas molecules go down, go boom, boom, because they are technically solids? Because you don't have an explanation. What's the explanation?
That's the most convoluted question I've ever heard you ask.
Yeah, and gas does not
I
go
don't
down,
even know
go
where
boom,
you
boom.
began.
Yeah, gas does not go down, go boom, boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls. It's going to escape. The CO2 is going to go up.
I thought.
Right, let me do it. Let me do it in shorthand. Why do bottles of pop go flat if we're in a gravitational field and CO2 is more dense than nitrogen and oxygen? If
We're not in a
gas
gravitational
molecules
field.
go down, go boom, boom, they should never go flat.
We're not in a
That's the
gravitational
short
field.
version?
Because you open the bottle.
We're not in a gravitational field. Gas does not go down, go boom, boom. There is no downward bias. Anything else? Space-time isn't being bent.
Yeah, but bottles of pop do go flat.
Yeah, but they can't claim that gas or any kind of mass is being attracted to any other kind of mass. At present, their description of gravity is a mathematical four-dimensional effect. That is it. Over. They don't have an explanation for why things fall or go up.
Alrighty then. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Or incoherent dielectric acceleration physics.
Is there an experiment or a viable hypothesis, sorry?
Yeah. Is there any? No, the answer is no.
No viable hypothesis. It's not astrophysics.
We need to add, on top of the astrophysics and all the other ones that you say, we need to add on to that the incoherent dielectric acceleration physicists.
Why? Is that world-renowned, taught in universities, understood to be the world rhetoric?
Is that physicist spelled with an F-I-Z-Z?
Based on the way I heard Bob talking about it on Globebusters last night, it sounds absolutely nailed on science, mate.
Sorry, based on one man. Sorry, what my question was, is it something that if I typed in a Google search, for example, it would come up as an explanation, or is it taught in universities to the world to understand as a nonsense downward acceleration or bending space-time? Or is this nothing to do with any of those things?
Consensus, though. That's a fallacious argument.
No, it's not. We are fighting against consensus because we don't agree with it. However, that doesn't mean that if I say, well, this isn't consensus, it just means I'm not fighting against it. I'm not saying I would only fight against it because it's consensus. That's not the point here. We're saying the consensus view is that there's a downward acceleration force. When gravity's not a force, it's the bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space. And 106 years ago was classed as mass attracting mass, now superseded by Einsteinian gravity, now superseded by quantum mechanics. So that's the current state of affairs, and if anybody asserts otherwise within the heliocentric rhetoric, I'm all for fighting against it, because any Joe Bloggs on the street would benefit from that. But us arguing about somebody else within our own side that has a different idea about it, it bothers me not in the slightest.
I'd just like to know where the downwards bias is. So if you ever find that evidence, can we see it? Hashtag helium balloons.
There isn't one. I boil a kettle. I can shatter that illusion if anyone has it that there's a downward bias. There isn't a downward bias.
Hashtag upward bias.
There isn't an upward bias either.
Downward bias syndrome.
There's no bias, right?
Also, hashtag floating bias.
No bias, right? There's a beautiful harmony, and that harmony is broken only by the cyclical nature of the world that we inhabit. We are surrounded by cycles, and they are in beautiful balance. There is no bias. Okay? Can we move on?
I agree, but they assert that there is.
They? Who? The ballers that the most of the Western world are under the same apprehension as, or some small subcategory of people that are technically on our own side and already appreciate there isn't a bending space-time or mass attracting mass force asserted?
Well, I'm thinking they are ballers. They might be.
This was the entire pre-show. I said in the pre-show, I'm not going to stop this conversation. It's on topic, right? So, you know, you can have at it. This is nature of the earth. I'm not going to stop you discussing it. But by the same token, I'm now having to labour this point. Which is the last thing I want. Isn't there a bigger fish to fry?
Yeah, but I don't understand how you could just take it so cavalier. You fight against what happened when people claim that there's an experiment, but you're not fighting against this when people are claiming that there's a downward bias.
I covered this in the pre-show, Neil. I covered this in the pre-show. An experiment that was claimed to prove Earth spins, touted by ballers, utilising a flat earther. That's right up my street, Neil. Yeah? Because you can type in a Google search, how much drift does Earth have, and it'll say 15 degrees an hour. And then moving forward, the ballers, the opposition, to take a patsy and present their data as proving 15 degrees an hour drift. Well, that's got two useful purposes for me. Number one, so Earth turns underneath as a non-inertial turning reference frame to give us 15 degrees an hour drift. That would shorten flight times and would be manifest in drones drifting away at 1,000 miles an hour, not actual deflection as you turned underneath them. So it asserts their claim and cements their claim as their claim because they deny it. So that's useful. Also, the claim of experimentation can also be denied, and that's useful for people moving forward to understand how the scientific method is utilised and abused by both sides in this instance, if you want to look at it in that way, Neil. But that's right up my street.
Now I'm going to appeal to 10th Man because he was going to ask you a question when you started the show. So go ahead.
Right. So my point is, people come on all the time and they use the word experiment, and you're on them for using that word on a different matter and saying you can't use that word because it's not the scientific method. So you have one thing when they tie it to something, but then other people just come and say, I did an experiment. No, because that means scientific method, where's your DV, IV, CV, blah, blah, blah. And, you can call it a test. You can call it something else, but you can't call it that. So you're sharp on that. So I guess what I'm hearing here from both sides, because I can care less either, but what I'm hearing from both sides, and I have to be fair, is that why aren't you on this?
I am. If someone came here and claimed they had an experiment, I believe Witsit gets it. got the sharp end of my tongue when he came here and did precisely that. Step into this platform and talk about something you haven't got any evidence for and claim it as science. Yeah, you're going to get ripped a new one. And that's precisely what happened. Now, that doesn't mean that in terms of debating the nature of the Earth, it doesn't matter who you're coming from. Come as a concaver and you get the same treatment. But in terms of us proactively discussing it, which is what we're doing, who's claiming this? Hands up on the panel. Who steps forward? It doesn't matter if you believe it or not, but who's willing to actually step forward and debate this subject here? Not on behalf of someone else, not as devil's advocate. Who's putting it forward? I'm not talking to you, Righteous. I'm not talking to you. You made it clear that while you are on that side, you're not stepping forward to debate it intentionally. So I'm not talking to you specifically, if anyone's watched the pre-show as well.
What?
Who's claiming it? Step forward. Stop. Brian, stop. 10th, stop. All who claim incoherent dielectric acceleration, step forward now. No one's claiming it, 10th, man. No one's claiming it. Brian, Neil, I'm talking to 10th. No one's claiming it, 10th.
No, I know. That's
I don't necessarily claim it, but I won't hand dismiss it.
I'll on 10th. Someone else is piping up. Bloody hellfire. Whoever that was, go ahead.
I don't claim it. I just don't hand dismiss it. I don't hand wave it away.
So where do we see the downward bias then? If you accept it, where do we see it?
No, there's definitely no downward bias though. But I'm saying
so you can't accept you can't accept it, then you must dismiss it.
Slowly. One of you speak, then the other replies. Not 10th, sorry. Anthony and Don Gio.
If you don't dismiss it, then you need to demonstrate where there is this so-called downward bias. Because if you can't demonstrate the downward bias claim, then there is nothing to accept because there's nothing there to prove.
I understand that, but definitely electrostatics is a phenomenon that I do observe.
None of us deny electrostatics. None of us would deny that. That's self-evident.
That's why it has a separate name.
Right, it's called precisely how it's called incoherent dielectric acceleration. That's the name of it.
Well, give a shit about that, to be honest.
Me neither, Chuck. I couldn't give a toss.
Could I just say something? The whole downward bias thing is something that's been promoted by, I'll say Bob, but it doesn't matter who it is. Well, I say it's Bob because he's the biggest voice, let's just say, because he's the biggest, such a big channel and that. But whatever it is that whatever it is they're investigating, it doesn't matter whether they prove themselves right. They still can't prove themselves right if they're claiming a downward bias. So you could have a point about electrostatics, but they'll never prove that point if they have a belief in a downward bias.
Question:
That's where
Can friction cause electrostatics?
Sorry, Don. What's just been explained to you is that none of us would disagree with this electrostatic description and examples thereof. None of us are disagreeing with that. That's the first thing. But it's been laid out to you and you conceded this, that what you need is a downward bias to then move forward to try and explain it. If there isn't one, you don't have to explain it anymore. Do you understand?
Oh yeah. There's no yeah. Okay, okay, yeah, right.
So why would we now suddenly start? This is Chocolate's point. So yeah, electrostatics. That's fascinating. Yeah, we could also sit here, and I'd like this a lot if we all discuss sound waves and electronics and signal path. Yeah, we could. But unless I'm going to start asserting that the pressure generated by my subwoofer is a reason for a downward bias, there's no really reason to brace against it until I assert that. So without the assertion, it's just an interesting folly to examine. Electrostatics, great, interesting for someone else.
Yeah, like that's nice. Is that why I'm supposed to be sticking sideways to a spinning ball in a vacuum? Is that why? No? Then I don't care. Thanks.
That back and forth between Don Gio and Sleeping Warrior was the most concise ending to somebody who might have been misled into thinking, well, no, it's really important that we study this incoherent dielectric acceleration force. And you're like, oh, right, why? Well, I don't really know why. I just don't want to hand wave it because it seems like there is actually this electrostatic force. Yeah, there is. It's called electrostatic
Right.
forces.
Right.
Yeah? Do you see where I'm
Can I
going?
say something?
No, I want to say something first.
Okay.
Right. So it's a joke. Baron Bob Harkonnen has an incoherent dielectric floating suit.
Go ahead, Neil.
The problem is when there's a bigger channel stating that Anthony's experiment doesn't explain everything, and then this incoherent dielectric acceleration comes in because there is obviously a downward bias that we observe every day on Earth. That's a problem.
Oh, wow. There's this guy called Destin. I think he's
I
got a
don't
channel
think
called
how
Smarter Every Day.
mention it.
Tells millions of people about this force called gravity. And everyone believes him. I mean, everyone believes him. There's this tiny handful of people that we're part of, and also this other guy called Bob Nodell's part of it as well, strangely enough. But when we speak, we get told we're idiots, regardless of which side of incoherent dielectric acceleration we're on. Whereas when this Destin guy, you know, goes and chats with the guys that are making the CGI videos for the TV about this outer space fake place, they all just believe him. So who's my enemy?
Yeah, but we're fighting against them daily.
Somebody said bigger
Here's
channels.
the thing,
Yeah. Who was barking on about bigger channels? Was it you, Neil?
I can't believe
said
nobody
that.
laughed to my joke. Jeez.
I said that first.
Nobody understood it.
Yeah, and I stood behind
I'm
you.
sorry,
The
Orwell.
point.
Can we
the point-
stay on topic?
Well, you got
Joking.
it.
Hello, can I get
Yeah,
some control? Hello, whoever it was that was trying to get then. I think it was Brian or Neil. The
Yeah,
point they
it
were
was
making
me.
was, well, there's a bigger channel that's disagreeing with Anthony. Anthony's done an experiment. He's validated his hypothesis. Beyond that, if you've got half a brain and you understand how science works, that's where you put a punctuation mark. You put a full stop, a period, and go, excellent. That's that. Confirmed. Tick. Done. Moving on. Now, if you don't understand that, and you can be swindled by people who give you quasi-experiments after you understand that the world's not a sphere and a sky vacuum, more for you. Not my problem. I've tried, QE's tried, you on the panel have all tried to educate the audience in what science is. Now, if you're still being swindled, that's on you.
The point I was trying to make, I'm not saying that the globebusters are our enemy or they're on the other side. The point I'm making, and Neil was making is the same point, I think. I leave Neil speak for himself, but I think he was making the same point, is that the people who are promoting this all have way bigger channels than us. So they're going to get more airtime. They're going to get to more people. And the problem is that if it's a positive claim, not just an investigation, but a positive claim of an actual cause to an actual effect, then what happens down the road? If this starts getting taken as a fact, then we're back to the same nonsense that we're in now.
We do the same thing we do all the time. Okay, you have experiment for that?
Yeah, but why should we?
Hold on, no, I was going to respond. I was going to respond. You made your point, Brian.
No, I didn't.
But you
I
did
wasn't
make your
finished. I wasn't
point.
finished.
You did, and then chocolate jumped in front of me when I was.
No, chocolate came in.
Okay, all right, let's get some order. This will
talking.
take
I
10
have to
minutes
just
of
shut
arguing
up.
about it. Just let Brian finish. You'll take 30 more seconds, and then we'll move on to Eli.
Yeah, I'm not trying to talk over you, Eli.
And just get on with it.
Finish what I was saying.
Okay, let's
Now,
not discuss that.
The point I'm making is why are we going to have to get to a point of having to do that? It's if we don't nip the thing in the bud now, and then we're going to have to deal with that problem in the future. I don't see the point.
Oh, hold on. So we're assuming that Bob from Globebusters is going to establish the new Western world paradigm? I don't think so.
Be very careful with that.
You know, why assume that he's not?
Because he hasn't.
Believes it.
Because he hasn't.
Nathan, can I ask you a question real quick, if you may? If I may.
Eli,
gases contain a
wait
static
for Eli.
charge?
So, I would say, Brian, that you don't have any faith in what this channel alone has done. I have never been in any dark corner of the internet fighting and someone say, hey, you're parroting Bob Nodell. I don't give a fuck about him, and neither does anyone else. Put too much faith in what he's doing. At the end of the day, people are afraid that I'm parroting the right science against their pseudoscience. No one's talking about Bob but you and
Hold
everyone
on.
else here.
That's not
I'm
entirely
bored with
true,
him.
though.
No,
That's not
that's not
entirely
true.
true, though, because
You're
a lot of
absolutely
people
wrong. You're
claim
right.
that he proved the rotation of the Earth. So
No.
Darn straight, Alwyn.
Okay, thank you.
You look at the
Hold
amount
on.
of people who went to
Somebody from
Globebusters
Discord
chat.
wanted to get a word in there, whoever it was.
Yes. Okay, so here's the thing. How can you have a downward bias with dielectric acceleration if gases can sustain a static charge? They go in all directions. So you can't
Yeah,
just
you're
say it
agreeing
goes
with us
down.
now, Don.
Conversation done.
Exactly.
You're agreeing with us then.
Conversation done. There you go.
Hello, we all know this. That's not
We don't know this.
No, maybe
Everyone
he
stop
Right, I
talking. Hello? Yeah, so Don was the only person who stepped forward to argue this point. Now he's conceding our point. Let's not all talk over him. Do you want to repeat yourself, Don? As you were the only person stepped forward to actually argue this.
Yeah, look. So gases can they can sustain a static charge and they go in all directions. So how is there a downward bias? They go in all directions.
Indeed.
They don't just go down.
Indeed.
Exactly.
Huh. Okay.
That's why we're
Well-
here, man.
Oh, we
Well,
all know this.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
The point I'm making is not about the argument against it, because I'm not against it. I'm only against a positive claim that's not able to be backed by experiment. That's what I'm against. I'm against it because let's be honest, how many people were watching Globebusters yesterday? How many people did they have? I hate to say it, but they have more people than is on the channel now here. I would rather it was different, but it's not.
Hold on. Guys, hello. I'm sure we can qualify these statistics if you want me to. I'm pretty good at my statistics, and I'm pretty sure I could investigate Bob's should I need to qualify this in this manner. But I'm not going to. I'm going to do it in a slightly different manner. So if I look at one of the gravity videos from Globebusters with 19,679 views, and then compare that to Smarter Every Day, who has got 2.6 million views on a bullshit video about gravity. Who am I more concerned about? Took me a while to find that Globebusters video, by the way. It actually took me about 3 or 4 minutes. When I searched it, just putting gravity into Google, instantly found a video from Smarter Every Day, and it took me 3-4 minutes of searching to find a specific video from Globebusters about gravity. Whoever's talking through me, can you stop talking through me? Thank you. I'd like to get to the end of the point I've just spent 3 or 4 minutes researching without being bloody interrupted. Yeah, my point stands. You saying a bigger channel, 20,000 views, you having me on? 2.6 million from Smarter Every Day talking about gravity. Instantly found on a Google search. Took me a while to find the same information in the counterpoint from gravity with Globebusters as the title. It took me ages, relatively speaking. So you think this is a concern? I disagree.
I got a comment.
20,000 more.
I got a comment for that. So that's one take from one angle about views with a different context. What I think everyone here is concerned with is that we are just wanting to create a paper trail of showing how silly it is because there's no proof for it. And so that's why we're talking about it and should keep talking about it and keep addressing it so that in the event down the road, this little leaven becomes a big old piece of bread. They have this paper trail that people stood up against it. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, well, then you do it in the way it just happened when someone came along and they were like, yeah, well, what's this? What's this electrostatic, whatever? And then you're like, what's that got to do with the downward bias? And they go, I guess I don't know. Okay, moving on. But really, people are actually understanding the scientific method. People are actually understanding what's going on here, and it's making a bigger impact than anywhere else as far as I've been in this community.
Right,
and
but what you're
around.
saying, saying there is what everyone's already said. We have a channel with a certain size audience. They have a bigger channel with a bigger size audience. So they're getting more views of something that isn't proven, and the smaller channel with the smaller size audience gets it because we talk about it and we say, well, just show it to us. I mean, if you show it to us, we'll accept it.
But will it stick in
Everything
conversation?
started
But will it?
small.
What I'm saying is, will it stick in conversation? Because you're not just gonna go over there and shut his channel down because he's getting more views.
No one's talking about that. We're talking
Okay,
about
so then in a conversation, will it stick? When the conversation that was just had between Chocolate and Don Gio is just like, will it stick?
Yes, let me tell you how life works. It always starts with one lie, very small. 2 people know about it. Maybe 1 person knows about it. Next thing you know, the whole world believes it.
Here's the thing: if you got logic and common sense and science, you're gonna catch on, like I just did.
Exactly.
We don't want to
you
shut
got
down
logic.
that. We want to shut down the argument, not the channel, the argument. Okay.
No, we want to have the argument. So I don't. This is not like we're all against to have the enemies or be the enemies of Globebusters. What I'm talking about is stopping it becoming something in 10 years' time that it can become. And then it's something that is just no different than the claims of gravity.
I see that.
What's the point?
I see that as bad. I see that as bad. I'll tell you why. Because I see that as bad. What happens if... How many things do you think in life get discovered by accident? One person's looking for one thing and they discover something new accidentally while on a completely different path. But you're trying to say, well, let's try and shut down their journey of discovery because we know that their premise they're basing their journey on is flawed. Well, we know it's flawed. We can point it out. What's that you say? There's a downward bias. Clicks kettle.
Yeah,
End
that's
of
not
argument.
what he's saying, Nathan.
That's not what I'm
helium
saying.
balloon.
That's
I
not what
never
he's
said
saying.
shut him down. I never said shut him down. I never said stop investigation. I'm totally into investigation into it. I know more about it than they know I know. I've been looking into it before most of them looked into it.
Yeah,
That's
right.
the point I make.
can I just say-
Don't make
let's
the
just hear
positive
Anthony.
claim.
Okay. Let's just hear
Exactly,
Anthony.
the downward acceleration claim. Stop
Okay,
the
but
Can I
we're
just say,
having
can
the
I-
conversation.
Let's try and get some
right?
control so we hear just one person. Anthony, go ahead.
Can I just say that when Nathan turns on his kettle and chocolate fills up his helium balloon, I just add a little bit of salt to make the egg go down, up.
I'll try that again. I'll edit
That's
it.
my point.
Anthony, just repeat that. I'll edit it out.
Well, it was a deliberate, intentional slur at the end, so I'll do
Oh,
it
was
with
it?
the slur on purpose.
Oh, I see. It went down where it went up. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So with Nathan and his turning on his kettle for the gas to rise and chocolate filling up his helium balloon, I just added a little bit of mass to the medium and made the egg go down. I mean, up.
I see. Very good.
I got that. Come on, Nathan, keep up.
Keep
No
up.
one.
Nice.
My excellent pun nobody got.
We all got it. I'm just shaking
we're
my head.
arguing about having the conversation, except we're having it. That's all I'm saying.
No,
We-
no, the conversation.
No,
we're
we're having it.
Guys,
What
can
do
we
you-
have
we're
one person
having
at a
it.
time, please? 10th, go ahead.
Yes, I saw something that I think Bob penned it. Someone helped me because I don't know where I saw it. I think it was Master B or one of the other Skype rooms where he says he's going to limit who he talks to about this. So he's already saying he's not going to go and talk to people like us who are going to ask the hard questions. Did anybody else see that?
Yeah, I wrote
Yes, that's what's annoying me.
Yeah, it's that what Bob said on Globebusters was that there's a certain group of people that will never will never be allowed into that conversation.
Exactly.
People like chocolate who walk around
didn't-
with a helium balloon wondering what the fuck is a downward bias.
So hold on. So to that point, Brian, what happens when you make a subject taboo?
Yeah, but that's not the point, Eli. The point is the very
I
people
thought it
that
was
should
the
be
point.
involved in it is not involved in it.
Brian, Eli's got a really good point. Just humour him.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
He asked
you tell me, Eli.
I'll
You tell
repeat
me,
it.
or rather than me guessing.
He said, what happens when you make a subject taboo?
People want to know about it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right, that's why we're talking about it.
So you're saying Bob's good at marketing?
15 degrees an hour. I'd bet he
Oh,
is.
don't change the subject, please, Neil. Don't convolute this, please.
I'd like to double down on it a little bit. If they don't see it, they eventually will. I understand your point where you're coming from, Nathan. If they don't see it, they eventually will.
Yeah, exactly.
I
And
just
if they
did.
don't, you can't save every soul. You can't hold people and say, you've got to understand that he hasn't varied the independent variable. Most people just glaze over.
Right, but when you offer a sustainable opposition with good questions, that's how people see it, and that's all Brian's talking about.
Exactly.
I see
Well,
more value,
just say-
far more value in what Quantum Eraser's doing. His approach is drop anchor on science, make sure everyone understands what it is, then they'll spot it for themselves. Then we don't have to do anything. Arm them with the tools to pick apart their armor, rather than picking apart their armor.
Well, then what happened to?
Hang
Hang on. Then what happened?
I want to
to the
address your
sci- hang
previous
on.
point.
One
though.
at a
Hang on.
time,
What-
10th man, go ahead.
Then what happened when the scientific method was accepted, and how did it get so fouled up if everyone dropped anchor back then?
They did it.
They didn't. Everyone used it as a magic trick to lend credence to their just so stories. That's where we come in. Go ahead.
Not when we first.
Hold
no,
on.
no,
Hold on.
no,
Everyone,
hang
hold
on.
on. There's a queue.
I
Everyone
don't
wants to
accept
talk.
that.
Eli.
You can't say that.
Jesus Christ, why is everybody so rumpusy?
No,
Yeah, I
because
just want to hear.
that's a
Everyone's got
ridiculous
something to
answer.
say. My God, why is this happening? Eli,
Because
go
I didn't
ahead.
get a chance to rebut.
Yeah, but everyone else wants to have a go too.
Yeah, but
Go
I
ahead.
asked you. the
Meanwhile, I'm
question.
still trying to answer your first question that he answered, which we're now going down a tangent. So
I'm trying to-
my response to you is, Brian had a debate with Witsit. The conversation is being had.
Why? Everyone
I have
takes
to disagree
one.
with that.
Totally disagree with that. You go to one event at one time and say it's been had when it's still continuing to be spoken about, and new conversations must also happen.
But that wasn't your previous point. I'm not
What was my
disagreeing.
previous point?
Well, you're saying we want to have the conversation. It is being had.
No, I'm saying we
It's
are
also
having.
been had this morning with Don Gio.
Yeah, we're having it.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that somewhere I read, and Brian
Yeah, I
backed me
wrote
up
it.
on it.
Yeah, I wrote that.
Certain people, based on what Bob is doing, are not going to be invited to have this discussion. Okay, that's fine. That's his gig. I don't care. We're having it despite what he says because he doesn't run the universe, right? So that's fine with me. But the point is, back to what I was saying, is that when the scientific method was first discovered, people said, okay, this is how we do it for cause and effect in an empirical manner. How did that change over time when at one time everyone knew this is the way to do it? That changed because pseudoscience came in and good people didn't stand up against it hard enough.
And you're correlating
Yes.
that with what Bob's doing now, and that could happen again.
It will happen again.
It will. It's on the way.
Unless we grow our numbers, because we're not doing that significantly now. Is that what you're saying?
No,
we
it's not
are,
about
but like when
numbers.
Brian wants to continue to have the conversation, and it said that it didn't go his way when he debated Witsit, so now he's trying to get on a bigger channel to promote himself. Now you're taking it away from the argument and making it personal.
So we go beat them up then. I mean, because other than that, what's the solution?
Hang on.
I'm
Let me
seriously
add some
asking,
clarity.
what is the solution?
Let me add some clarity. The problem is
giving a fuck.
we're here arguing about this amongst ourselves when we should have been able to, everyone should be able to talk about this with everyone. The Globebusters side with us with them, the ballers with them, the ballers with us about it. But there is a block in that conversation, and there's been a constant block in that conversation. And it's not from us.
I don't know. It's I just see the nonsensical part is any one of them could show up here on this panel. None of them will get kicked out or anything, and it just seems like it would be the same the opposite way. That's all it just seems like, and that's just the ridiculous part.
That's telling.
Now you got this.
That's very telling.
So,
wouldn't you agree? That's very
It
telling.
is. It is.
Yes, but it's always been like that. That's always been
Well,
the
why? Why is that? Why is it that everybody is welcome? Even all of these globetrotters that come here are welcome to this panel, but It seems like we have to get shut down or not spoken to about certain subjects because we don't agree with them. Like that's the part I'm just like, whatever, bro.
There's,
Like
there's the
But it's always
from
been
my,
like that.
Hold on.
oh,
They
oh,
never
yeah,
engaged
Hold on,
really in
Arwin,
debating
then
like
Adam.
that because they weren't good at it.
whatever.
So
Sorry, can you say,
equally,
Said it.
equally,
just
so
everyone
equally,
can't. Hello? Just Arwin on his own so I can hear him. Then Adam, please. Go ahead, Arwin. Can you repeat what you just said?
Right. Just a short point, it's always been like that. Now we are going sort of against some of the things they are saying, but they never really engaged with ballers elaborately either, just some sporadic conversations and then just complaining about it and then being very happy about how they don't go into debates. And that's been like that forever since the start. That's their policy. They have a safe space. They don't go into debate.
And don't bring us up.
Well, yeah.
Adam and then Eli.
Go ahead, Adam.
Sorry.
Morning, Adam.
I mean, it's clear there's the two issues, and I just really want to look at the second one. Yesterday was very telling, and I think for me, when I entered this arena, and I think most people with the tools we're being armed with, they have discernment, and certainly if there was ever a point where I was told this is something, but do not go and listen to this opposing side, as a person with discernment, the first thing I would do is that. So to me, all this sort of behavior is counterproductive in of itself. It's there. I'm with Nathan. I'm not there to try and force anybody's opinion. I'll give mine on it. And in this subject, I've already gave it on Globebusters Live. I don't agree or disagree. It's a unprovable thing we're discussing at the moment. But I do give people credit. And I think if you go out there and you're given a narrative, and I think certainly flat earthers, if they were given the sort of narrative that was purported yesterday, I'd be very dubious as to why certain people wouldn't be included in that debate. And I would be very, very interested in their opinion on it. It would be the first thing I'd seek out. So each to their own, and I think give people a bit more credit. I think we need to distinguish between the 2 points. There's that which affects what Nathan denies, which is the community. And there is a bit, and I think that strains a little bit on our sensibilities there, that we should be working together. We've tried to, and to be excluded, to have a kind of scientific apartheid is very interesting, but I think it's more telling for those that are imposing it.
Indeed. Eli, go ahead.
Okay, so I think the main point is okay. They, whoever they are, have a large audience. So now, not only do they have a larger audience than here, which I don't think has anything to do with impact or influence, but so now they are also going to censor people. So echo chamber. What happens to people who have an echo chamber and come into either here or 24/7 Flat Earth Discord? What happens to that person?
They get ripped to pieces, don't they?
Smashed.
They get ripped to pieces. They've not had any contrary views to ever fight against.
Okay, well, yeah.
I think you're breaking up a little bit.
But what
Eli.
happens when you got somebody like Rachie who's trying to find something out and she's being coaxed in a certain direction? Just leave her alone.
But
Which goes back to my first point that Nathan said that I didn't answer properly. My point was not that Bob might have a dissenting opinion. My point was that he was double speaking to confuse the matter so that people like Rachie coming to the topic think that it's far more confusing than what it actually is. That was my point.
Meanwhile, Smarter Every Day, 2.6 million viewers, is actually punting the Western world view, and that does actually have a major, significant impact on what the Western world thinks. This little aside with somebody within our community that you want to put your arm around, in this case Rachie, and say, no, this sub-faction, they're wrong. This in the bigger scheme of things, I know we've now spent an entire show on this, But based on what Adam, who gave me a bit more insight into it, thank you, Adam, in terms of what's being happened, from what I gleaned from what Adam's just said, it's literally people are being directed away from the contrary point of view. Is that correct?
It's not welcome within the debate, which is...
Be more specific. What's not welcome where? Where's the debate? Who's
us?
Certainly
What I'm hearing.
What?
Yeah.
Sorry, Chocolate or Adam, one of you. Just give me a bit of clarity. What are you talking about? Us? What do you mean?
I'd hate to misquote, so I can only go on my recollection, but my understanding was that we are not welcome in the debate.
Who's we? Please be more specific.
Well, you, me, Chocolate, Elijah, Neil, Brian.
Flat Earth debates, bro.
Arwin, Sleep, Tony, definitely. QE, anyone else that may want. And this is, I assume then, I'm not sure where the criterion is drawn as to whether it's anyone that has associated with you or is in the past, or anyone that comes to the opinion that it maybe not be validatable scientifically. It wasn't quite clear that.
I see. So for clarity, Flat Earth debate team / anyone who disagrees aren't welcome.
Not so sure about the / anyone who disagrees, but definitely not us. But I can only think the reason we're not welcome is...
How has this been established? Why definitely not us? Have we been named by name as you've just done?
No.
How do you know it's us?
Maybe my ego. Maybe it's just my ego.
Can I just say?
Can I just say?
Oh God, have a sugar, Anthony. Hold on, Anthony. Anthony,
can I
hold
just
on.
Say, I heard
just
the
let,
same. I heard the same
Anthony.
sentence.
Hello. Can you just let Adam get to the end of his thought, and then yes, you can go next. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah.
Just finish off what you're saying.
I will try. Maybe it is just my ego then.
Can I just say, I heard the same point in the conversation that Bob was having. I did not get the impression he was talking about us. I thought he was talking about other people that might be hating on him for the same reason, but I didn't get the feeling he was talking about us. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are other people he was talking about, and you guys have got it wrong. I just want to point out that Bob claims that he's open to the conversation, and I've been asking him for years to have the conversation with me, and he will not do it, and he will not talk about the egg going up. That's all I need to point out, really.
It's not a sexual reference for anyone who's new.
What was said was that certain people will never be allowed into the conversation. He didn't specify who, but you could basically, from my most recent interactions with him, and at least one other member of the panel here, who we won't have to name, you could basically say he's not interested in having a conversation with me and that person.
Nobody claims he is, though.
You can always just ask.
Hold on, Adam. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on, Adam. Just go ahead, Brian. Just finish off.
Yeah, well, the claim was, or what was, sorry, not a claim, but what was said is that there'll be certain people who will not ever be allowed into the conversation with Bob and the rest of the people who are with Bob who support this. I'm not talking about all them over there on Globebusters. I like some of them people, and I'm not enemies with them, but Bob did make that statement. The problem is that I'm going to say it straight. The problem is that Bob views certain people as his enemy because they don't agree with him, as opposed to them just not agreeing with him and not viewing him as their enemy. Understand?
See, that's the fundamental difference between Bob and other people. My view is that Bob's argument is naff. My view is that Bob personally doesn't really matter. I just don't like the fact that he's pushing stuff that is speculative as though it's actually true, and he's influencing people that are like on their journey, new into the journey, like Rachie, that I'm not putting my arm around. I'm just acknowledging that she's being fed bullshit, and she'll probably work it out because she's not as dumb as what some people might think she might be because she's new. But the point is that Bob's person is kind of irrelevant to the point he makes. The point he makes is naff, regardless of how good or bad Bob is. But you're right, Bob does pin it on the person, and he makes Nathan Oakley this or Quantum Eraser that. It's nonsense. But that, again, epitomizes the whole scenario. It's nonsense.
Okay, I got all that. Right, just for anyone, I will come back to Adam because I know he wants to get a word in here, but just for anyone who's just joined us. So, in summary, what we're discussing is an assertion that there is a downward bias, that it requires explanation, and that explanation is the incoherent dielectric acceleration. Now, to summarize why we don't agree with that, it's because there isn't a downward bias. You only need boil a kettle and watch the steam go up to know that there's not a downward bias. So, that's the position that we were arguing about. The reason why this has turned into such a lengthy discussion, from what I can glean from my co-panel members, is that there's a defiance of any discussion debate from a certain unnamed party of people who is assumed to be us in this regard, and that is objectionable because there's an assumption that because they're so massive and have got such huge channels and are influencing so many people, that may become the worldview rhetoric. That's what I've got from this as I roll my eyes. Adam, go ahead.
Don't poo-poo it.
Okay, Neil, did you just want that interjection or did you have something to add? Because I want Adam to give his 2 pennyworth again.
No, you're making it sound like it can't happen. It's happened already.
Yeah.
I'm not denying. We wouldn't be discussing it. Anyway, Adam, go ahead.
I'd just like to clarify my ego, if that's all right. And the reason I would include myself. When I was kicked out, removed from Iron Realm, the justification was this conversation was causing too much drama. And that's one of the fundamental reasons I was asked or kicked out, asked to leave, depends how you want to view it. Subsequently from that, obviously another member of the Iron Realm crew then released a positive statement that this was gravity. So with regards to the previous comments in terms of inclusiveness of the discussion, I'm confident I'm not included.
Okay, fair enough. Now that's a piece of information you hadn't released to the public until now, Adam. So for clarity, you're saying that based on your disagreement, presumably for the same reasons already disclosed here today, you were relieved of your position on Iron Realm. Is that correct? I know it's correct.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was felt that I was bringing drama to Iron Realm that they didn't want, and they didn't want to take a position on this subject, and wanted it left alone.
I see. And now they've reached a position.
You wouldn't say this was gravity.
Well, no, that was no. I've always only ever been myself and expressed my opinion. I was invited on to Globebusters. I gave my opinion there. It was never given as a threat. It was strange because, just suddenly out of the blue, I got a call one night to say, we'd like you to leave. Shortly after the Globebusters. I mean, that might have all been coincidence.
Sorry, I've got my violin queued up. Na, 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 na.
No, I've got no time.
Sorry, can you do that all again over the top of the violin?
The reason I raised it there, guys, isn't, as you say, this was a long time ago, and it was just to validate why I do feel we're included in that. And for flat earthers, that's very telling for me and very disappointing because of all the things. We don't have to get along, but we should be hearing our opinion to get to the truth.
Yep.
Bravo.
And we're expressing it. We've got a platform as much as it's, in one way valid because Bob has got a bigger channel than we do. But in terms of whether or not that has some overarching determination to my credence that's lent to the argument itself, that's not going to change. And I'm sure I've made that clear as well. And my reasons why I don't think it's necessary. On the other hand, it's an on-topic subject matter. So it is going to get discussed if somebody like Anthony insists that it's praised, ultimately leading me trying to shut it down, and then the entire live show being spent doing it. Who is it that brought up the point about what happens if you make it taboo? Eli. Excellent point. So inadvertently, I've done that. I've gone, I'd rather it's not that important. Let's not talk about it. What happens? Entire live show spent on it.
Sounds like you got a taboo bias.
I have more to add to it. I read through the comments on the Globebusters from yesterday, And one of the comments was someone asking, what creates the differential in pressure? Their wording was in the atmospheric pressure. What I know the word atmospheric, it doesn't suit us, but just for description, was what the person said. What creates the atmospheric pressure differential? And underneath it, Don't Sphere the Truth, that channel, who has some good content, and I've recommended that channel to people in the past, said to go to his video. He couldn't post the video, and he stated that it's caused by incoherent dielectric acceleration. And Zachary Zabala, in his video that I made a response because of, I didn't really respond to his video, I just made a video because of his video. He stated that the pressure differential in our atmos, in our air, is due to incoherent dielectric acceleration. So there's more than just one thing being attributed to this. Just wanted to throw that out there.
And where's the proof of that?
Well, there you go.
Gas doesn't go down, go boom boom. Just going to read some comments from the members only chat. Oh, and a super chat, which I will shout out at the end as well. So Rob H says, Bob specifically said we would not be welcome in their debates. I don't know. That's not been confirmed, Rob, but if you say so. Dank. Hey, I got called part of, quote, Nathan's gang on Dell's chat. I wear it proudly. Well, thank you very much, Dank. I really do appreciate it. Dank also says hello to a few of the participants. Jaren is great. Eero is brilliant. Indeedy do. From Rob H again. Philippu. None of this would matter if we lose our right to protest and are forced to have vaccine passport. Not really on topic, but thank you for your comment. Anybody else got anything to add from the public chat? Feel free. It's not actually, it's members only, but yeah. Also, big shout out to Al Junkie, who says, give this super chat to the one and only the Adam Meakin. I don't know how I give him a super chat. Maybe I'll buy him a beer. I think that's probably the most appropriate. Thank you for the super chat, Al Junkie. Really appreciate the support. Anybody from Discord got anything to add, as we've had an entire show addressing? Okay,
the violins work. Cheers, Al.
I like how we're a gang now. It's cool.
With what?
I thought the English said I'll buy you a pint.
Sorry, what? With what?
I thought the English and the Irish say, I'll take you to the pub and buy you a pint.
Yeah,
I
well,
didn't know
I was
you
asking
said
chocolate.
beer.
Right? With what now?
No, one of the comments was, or one of the super chats said, they got identified as part of Nathan's gang. I said, I like how we're a gang now.
Gang?
Yeah, we're
Yeah. That's a very key word. Gang.
Yeah, you
Well,
don't
we do
remember
have a
one of the
sense of
super chats you
loyalty,
just read. I think it was
Damn
gang.
right we got loyalty.
Well, I just think that the word gang has got a very strong negative connotation to it, hasn't it? It's like, it's one of the trigger words, isn't it?
Sorry, Chocolate, you're gonna have to give up rap and go Gangman style.
Oh shit.
Well, Brian said he's all part of Special Forces.
Yeah. Well, the initiation into it is learning the scientific method. If you don't get that, you're in trouble.
That's how you get jumped in.
Yeah.
Go on, Neil.
Before the
You're in
show
trouble.
runs out, can I give
Oh, it's
my
Ali. Yeah.
summary interpretation of
Which
the
can?
situation that happened with Adam?
ahead.
Adam was
Can you-
fired through Bob's action.
Let's not worry about that.
Boom, boom.
Can I just add? Can I just add that the Rachie bit that Bob's influencing, if Rachie really wants to work out what's going on, and I've said to her in text a few times, she needs to learn scientific method. Until she gets her head round what scientific method does, it proves the cause of an effect by manipulating the independent variable to establish that cause of the effect. Until she learns that, she's going to be wandering down paths that lead to nowhere. So Rachie, if you're listening, take my advice. Learn quantum erasers, listen to what he says and apply what he says. And it doesn't matter if you get it wrong a couple of times. We all do it. It's part of the learning curve. But it allows you to distinguish the bullshit from the actual science. And that will give you the answer.
Nathan, can you let us know when it's going to be again? Because QE said it was going to be every other Sunday, where he's dropping anchor on
It was
scientific
anyway.
method, which I think is the best defense.
I suspected that would cause confusion. So the show schedule hasn't changed and will not change. The only thing that's going to change is that previously when I was running Ballbusters, I used to keep the show running. So in the same way, if you're watching this live right now, remember the number of the show, 1372, and watch the Uncut and After show, because typically I'll try and keep a lid on certain subjects that are too internal for me to let reach the live show, which is what I've done today. But once the live show ends today, I know that there's people who are gonna want to air their personal views on this subject, and I'm gonna let them. You know, it's on topic, so I'm not gonna stop them. So just bear that in mind when I do actually round out the live show. Just make a note of the number and come and watch the after show, because it'll be well worth it. I'll say that in advance of it happening, because I know what's going to happen in the after show. It happened in the pre-show. Anyway.
Read my last comment in chat.
You read it. Go ahead, Arwin.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The more, hey, that are you your name, Arwin? Bob acts like a 12-year-old girl. The more I get inspired to make memes about him. It's not a conscious process. It just happens as a natural consequence.
We have to make memes about people on our own side.
Excuse me, our own side?
Yeah, Bob's a flat earther. I consider myself by name only as a flat earther.
I
I'm starting to question it.
don't really know. No, I consider to be on the side of flat Earth, science-based realist, not science fiction-based fantasists that just happen to have a vantage point of a flat Earth. Thanks.
People.
I just want to state that Rachie that Anthony was speaking about, that she asked me because she was told that Nathan, you were dishonest, and this guy, I was some baller troll, I can't remember what it was, had given her something to do with some messages between you and Anthony, and it was all taken out of context. No, that the ballers mess around. I remember the thing, I remember the time, I remember the stuff happening with it, but it was all taken out of context. And the way that it was worded to her, and I'm sure it's been worded to other people, is they made it look like you were hiding globe evidence, right? So she asked me about this. So it's very likely there's people being told not to watch the show or not to trust you, Nathan, because people are pushing nonsense that isn't true about you.
Maybe we should
You're
address that.
dishonest.
Maybe we should address that after Nathan rounds out. Nathan, what do you think?
Precisely what will happen, Anthony. With that, I'll say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an epic after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, smashed the super chat, and all that good stuff. Also, link below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Committed fraud, guys. They
having
committed
to-
fraud by claiming with a supposed demonstration that gas is susceptible by magnetic influence, which is just a
talking about two different things.
preposterous lie,
Yeah.
and they doubled down continually.
And
It is fraud. It is NASA level fraud.
Nathan,
Okay, slow down,
Arwen.
slow down there. Okay, so in the absence of the geometric horizon, they have a made-up slur.
Nathan, should we explain it?
Do what you like. I don't care.
Because
How
you
about it?
did.
Do what you
All right,
like.
so I'm going to do this for the benefit of Rachie, right? I'm going to assume that Rachie's never heard this because it was buried in conversations over the debates for many times, but we'll do it again. Me, Nathan, Spurs all went up to St. Bees and we were trying to observe the lighthouse at Macclesfield, 31 miles away from the car park, because Miles the Liar Davis said if we could see the lighthouse from the car park, he would have to reconsider his position. So we set out to try and see the flashing light from the car park. We could see the flashing light from the car park. It's supposed to be behind something like 200 feet of earth curve, maybe more. I can't remember the maths, but it's not meant to be possible. Now, because we could see it, I was like, well, let's push it. And Nathan's view, and Nathan can explain it better because it's his angle, so I'm not going to take his words, but Nathan said to me, all we've got is a black screen with pixels in the middle flashing away. It could be bloody anything. So Nathan, do you want to explain what your angle was with respect to the words that were said, that me and you were talking about that was being screen shared? Because I understood what you were getting at, but they didn't. Batman would be the key word. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still
that
here.
was
I don't know what you want me to explain, Anthony. You've explained it.
Yeah, I want you
we're
to tell
talking
them, because
about-
obviously I said we should go with it because we can see it, and you were like, well, and then you realised what they're because there's always an angle that they'll find, and we didn't know how strong the evidence was. So the angle what Nathan was trying to say was like, don't push this, because Nathan, do you want to explain or should I?
I was trying to, you just interrupted me. Started leading into it and immediately, yeah.
I couldn't hear you. You must have been on mute.
All right, okay. Anyway, yeah, I sent you a message saying they'll just claim it as a globe proof. I paraphrased it because we'd had endless discussions about it at St. Bees after getting the pictures. So you, not you, it was actually your missus, went out and captured the imagery of a dot, 1 pixel flashing. Now, admittedly, it's flashing at the correct rate. I know it's Macclesfield Lighthouse. I can see it. In other words, I'm stood at the same position she is with her camera, looking at it flashing. Now, for us, it's twilight, right? It's not quite nighttime. I mean, by the time we finished, it was. But when we started seeing it, it wasn't quite fully dark. So I could make out what was being projected into my eyeballs, if you will. Now, I use that term intentionally because projected was what we discussed I would suggest they would claim. So we're preemptively at St. Bees, sat down, getting drunk, and going, what would they come up with as an objection to this? And I said, as the baller protagonist in this scenario, thrashing out what I think they'll come up with as an argument, that it'll be projected over the curve of the Earth and be used to claim that that is a proof of the curve of the Earth because it's being projected up at the rate that they're going to bend the light at, which is now known by us, it wasn't at the time. Standard refraction based on an hour that's debunked by the Black Swan. The arguments advance so far beyond this, it's untrue. But because they've got a, what would you call it, shorthand description to me that basically lets Anthony know they'll claim this as a globe proof, Anthony, as I've discussed. I didn't put all of that information into a shorthand message in Skype because Anthony knows he's been sat with me while we've been thrashing this out at St. Bees, effectively on a holiday. Both of our girlfriends were there, or my wife and Anthony's girlfriend, and we're discussing it. So there's no need for me to go into great detail on a Skype message when I say they'll just claim it as globe proof. I think I put perfect globe proof, which is my shorthand way of saying they'll claim it's projected up at the rate of our blah, blah, blah. You're not going to put that in the middle of a debate when Anthony and I have got an internal discussion.
I knew what he was saying. I knew that when he was saying perfect globe proof, he's saying to me that they're going to claim, no matter how reasonable or remote it actually is, they're going to claim that it's the perfect globe proof because they're going to say, we're not actually looking down the lens of the light. We're looking at the Batman logo at 20 miles away, not 30 miles away. We're getting to the apex of the curve. And that's what Nathan was getting at. So I totally understood that, and it didn't need any further explanation, and it wasn't even an issue. But because they didn't know that we were talking in short, concise, they just interpreted it the way it was.
Let me just correct that, because there was a slight issue between you and I, because we had a disagreement about it. So while I'm playing Glober protagonist, and you're describing what I described as Glober protagonist, which is this light projected out to a certain point, like the Batman logo. And that projection of the dot is going to be the point that they say you're seeing, rather than the light just reaching your eyes exactly as it would. So I said that's what they'll claim. Now, from that, because Anthony didn't agree with me, we started looking at how Fresnel lenses worked. In other words, how does the light actually come out of the lighthouse? So that's the stage we're at when I'm saying, no, they'll just claim it as a perfect globe proof, because I'll say the light's bent at the rate of the curvature of the Earth, and you're seeing it because it's proving the globe. That was my position at St. Bees. But Anthony's like, no, because the light won't project in that way. It's not going to appear like the Batman logo. It's just reaching your eyeballs. So it's like, well, okay, let's see how the light is actually going to be working for you to see it. Now, the reason that was a disagreement was because at the time, literally at the time, Anthony went into Wikipedia, and made a correction, because they said it could only be seen at about 12 or 13 miles, in line with the globe maths. But we were seeing it at 32. So Anthony's like, well, that's not right. They're saying it's only visible at 12 miles. I'm going to correct it. So he did, and then he got banned for making an alteration.
Yeah, they changed it back as well. But the point is, though, their perception of what Nathan was explaining to me in shorthand is misunderstood, probably innocently, but then when they get told the explanation, they just don't accept it. Now, ultimately, I know that if I speak to Chocolate in a shorthand way, I don't have to explain why it's shorthand. I know he gets it's shorthand. He understands that I know it's shorthand. No further explanation is required, which is what me and Nathan were doing. But in no way, even after explanation, will they concede that they've just misinterpreted shorthand. They will still push it as Nathan's being dishonest. That's why I defend him, because he wasn't being dishonest.
Can I say something a second?
That's why it's so sad, because it's like somebody looking in on a conversation they weren't part of, have no idea what's going on, and just hearing words they want to hear together, and they're just like, "Oh, look, Nathan Oakley said perfect globe proof." Ah. It's like, you sound so stupid. It's the most ridiculous thing. And meanwhile, these same people are now currently telling us that they don't have a geometric horizon. Have fun with that, guys. Are you kidding?
Hold on, let me just hear Brian. He's been trying to get in. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan. I posted the thing that Rachie got given to her. It was from that guy, the Snark. I posted that in. The only part that concerns you, Nathan, and Anthony, I don't know if it's Anthony, but you anyway, is that if you go to it and pause at 27 seconds, there's like a text thing going on there. And that's what she got sent. And she literally didn't trust you because she thought that you were hiding globe proof. She thought that she was told you were dishonest.
It's been punted and accepted and repackaged by the most stupid people out there. So it was originally screen capped by Cat Earth, thanks to Anthony, who was screen sharing and then just didn't stop screen sharing and then continued to share our private Skype information with the entire Hangout. So Cat Earth's got that up on screen capped our private information, and then shared it with the world as, look, Nathan says something's a globe proof, therefore he's a glober. You're like, no, far from it. Me in a debate explaining with someone who's explaining something to someone in debate live, that what they're going to claim if you bring up this single pixel of a light, that I'm going to say they're going to bend around the curve of the Earth, which is exactly what they've done now with the horizon, I might add, right? If that ever comes up, if somebody actually sees that and says, look, Nathan's got a globe proof, I get it presented to me all the time. There's literally soccer accounts don't mention the lighthouse. You're like, what? Mackled lighthouse? The debate we won, it didn't fit within the curve maths. You think that's something that we want to shy away from? You're having a laugh, right? The only thing they had over us at the end of that debate was we incorrectly identified one mass of land as being Ireland when it wasn't. They took that for some massive victory. It's like, no, none of the maths worked at all. We demonstrated that time and time again, but what we think, we're going to shy away from that crappy old dusty argument back when we begged the question. I don't think so.
On that note, that's when I really started working with you and Tony, because Tony rang me, and how that was resolved. Yeah, there was a private discussion. Oh, they could interpret this like that if a Fresnel lens works like this, right? So what did we do? We went out, and I ended up ringing the lighthouse man, who said, oh, no, it works like this. He explained to me how it worked, because he said, and I've just been and changed it for an LED light in the new lighthouse. It's one of the new gen. He explained how the Fresnel lens worked, explained to me, no, that we would be seeing the light source, not the point of a crossover of the beam. You still don't see anything there. It's not a Batman logo. And we went out, we explored it, and we got the correct answer. And I genuinely, the way that was mislabeled as if there was something. It was just a clean investigation, and somebody got the middle of a private chat that.
Just two quick points. One of the points at the time was the focal length of the bulb. Now, I remember Nathan getting this wrong, and I did try and correct him, but he insisted he was right, and he wasn't, and he still isn't right. But we were talking about the focal length for how far will the focal, I think it was the focal height at a value. And it's to do with the distance between the top of the water at average sea level compared to the height of the bulb relative to the average sea level. But Nathan had incorrectly perceived that it was to do with the height that the bulb would be projected out over distance or something along them lines. I can't remember exactly what it was, but we were arguing over that as well at the time. So there was lots of different factors going on. So that was one of the confusing factors at the time, which we were trying to work our way through. But my second point with regards to Rachie, I'm not actually going to go and tell Rachie about this conversation, but what I hope somebody does is go and tell her on my behalf so that she can go back and listen to what was actually said, because it's very easy to take a one sentence and cherry pick to make it create the perception that something's factually true when it's the opposite. But when you have it explained to you specifically, Rachel, I hope that you hear this and you realize that these guys that you're listening to that are claiming that Nathan's dishonest, come and speak to Nathan yourself and see whether you think he's dishonest, and you'll realize that he's not.
I don't care.
Let me say
Hold on. Number one, I don't
ask
care.
them
Hello, I don't care if Rachel thinks I'm dishonest. That's up to her. I don't care. But so don't be too fussed about concerning yourself with reproaching me. But back while we're on the subject of this lighthouse, there was another reason I phrased it that way, which I've just remembered. So at the time, I strongly did not want Anthony to release this piece of information, this single dot flashing. I was like, don't release it. I just think it's more hassle than it's worth. So when we're on a live show, we're in discussion, and Anthony's edging towards bringing it up, I don't want him to, right? So my way of dissuading him from doing that in the messages I was saying, don't bring it up. It's perfect globe proof. In other words, strongly saying it's a bad idea. My way of dissuading him. In other words, this will end up with backfiring. They'll claim it as perfect globe proof. That was what I was trying to stress to him in the strongest possible way. Little did I know that fucking Cat Earth would be screenshotting Anthony's still sharing screen. But there we go. That's life, isn't it? Me wanting to say, please don't release this stupid single dot flashing, turned into Nathan thinks the Earth's a sphere, because I'm telling Anthony, no, don't release this. They'll claim it as perfect globe proof. In shorthand, perfect globe proof.
Well, that's what happened to me. Let me get this in, please.
Just one sec. Look how I dealt with the disagreement. Me and Nathan don't agree on some things, and when we don't agree on stuff, like how do you deal with the disagreement? Do you block each other and do hate videos, or do you go back to the beach and get the same fucking footage, lay on your belly?
I don't think you've ever blocked me yet.
Yeah.
Have you blocked me? I don't think so.
No, maybe. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think
when
I did
When I
once.
first got into this and I started interacting with chat, they sent me that whole thing claiming that you were being dishonest. You were actually a glober in it only for the money, and here's the proof. But I seen right away, right through it before you even explained it. So if you're searching truth, you're gonna see right through that.
Hold up. Has anybody presented this magical globe proof?
That's what I was going to go to next. I love chocolate. You're ace.
Where is it?
Where is it? Let's see what it is then.
It was never presented.
Exactly.
Like, are you serious right now with this?
That's the most ironic thing, right?
Years ago.
Well, the thing is,
But they're still
sad as
using
shit.
chocolate.
Bro,
Go on,
it's
Neil,
so
you're desperate
sad.
to get it in,
that
and I'll be
y'all
wrong,
hanging
so I
on
don't
to
let
this,
you. Go on,
passing
Neil.
it off to the new flat earthers. Like, look, 4 years ago he said something. He's serious, man. This is a joke.
Exactly. So exactly. That's my defence, because I know the backstory. I know that the actual piece of evidence that's being discussed, very specifically, is one light flashing, one pixel flashing, I should say, right? And that's never been released to this day. So it's like, okay, let's see it then. Well, you said it. It's like, oh, right, so am I now the arbiter of this globe proof? Well, what is it? Well, I don't know. You tell me. Well, I'm not a globe believer, you absolute clown.
But the best thing about it
They're
is
saying you're hiding it.
You are the
the best thing
arbiter of
about
the
it is
pixel.
We are. Hold on, let me just address that. Hold on, Anthony.
This is the
Hold on,
reason
Anthony.
why I
Hold on.
was so
Hold on,
interested in
Anthony.
Taboo
Oh, it never
Conspiracy's
works. 3
latest
more
upload.
attempts. 5 more attempts. Anthony. Yeah, Neil. We are. It's never been released. That's the ironic thing. So they say Nathan's hiding the globe proof. So okay, just go to Anthony, right, and ask him to give it you, and then feel free to present it as a globe proof. By all means. Now, I didn't want it out there because I think it's absolute crap. I think it's a single light flashing. Literally, you could recreate it if you stood far enough away and flash a torch. You know, literally, at the right rate. So easy to recreate with it not being the thing that I physically witnessed with my wife stood next to me. Now, without that experience alongside the imagery, it's meaningless. It's one dot flashing. What use is it? I thought it would be an absolute nightmare to debate about it. So I didn't want it released. So it is literally, I'm hiding what they think is a perfect globe proof because I've shorthand described it that way after playing devil's advocate at St. Bees and trying to discourage Anthony from releasing this really good evidence. Now, you tell me, if you were a glober and you heard this and you thought, hold on a second, he's saying he has actually concealed some evidence. Well, it's not mine, it's Anthony's. Well, yeah, I have. I've discouraged him from releasing it. So feel free, get hold of it, man, and then see how far you get with punting it as a globe proof.
Matter of fact, bring it back here. Here, present your pixel and show us how that's geometric
By the way, that's
curve.
all pre-Black Swan.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying that's all before the Black Swan anyway.
It is, and there's one last point to make on this. Why was Anthony arguing with me as a baller, as devil's advocate, for this piece of evidence? That's not been discussed yet. Well, because Anthony thought it was absolutely red-hot proof of a flat plane. Why? Well, because we're at the beach at St. Bees looking at a light that's on the beach on the Isle of Man flashing at 32 miles. Obviously and observably flat. You can't really... I took my wife out, right? When it was finally spotted, I think it was Anthony, it might have been his missus, one or the other. We're like, I can see the light flashing. Wicked, let's go out and have a look. Took my wife out, and I explained it to her in those terms. There's the light, right? It's about 200 foot off the beach. On the other side, 32 miles away on that island that we could see when we pulled up. She's like, wow, that's a long way. You're like, yeah, not half. Well, there should be a massive amount of earth curve stopping that from occurring, and according to Wiki, it is. It's only visible at 12 or 13 miles. So Anthony is pitching it to me like I'm pitching it to you, saying it's wicked, man. Look, there's no way we could see this single pixel in the camera view. Now, that's a very different story when you stood there looking at it, and you can see the outline at dusk of the Isle of Man, and you've seen it all day. I knew immediately it's stone cold proof of flat Earth. Now, if you had the resolution and the exposure or whatever it would be required for the camera to see exactly what I saw with the silhouette of the Isle of Man and the light flashing on it, then I would have been all for presenting it. But that isn't what we got. It's what I got, personally. It's what my wife got and Anthony got. Was Spurs there? Spurs was there, wasn't he?
Yeah, Spurs was there.
Spurs got it. He was stood there on the beach with us looking at it. So we're going, fucking hell. The Earth's flat, and we're all looking at each other going, yeah, man, that's mad, isn't it? 32 miles, and we can see it beach to beach. That's amazing, right? Well, this is the actual scenario. But when it comes to the actual presentation of the evidence, I'm far more critical. Let's see what's in the camera. Let's see what we can present to the world. This is shit. I don't want to present this. This is rubbish. I'll just say it's globe proof, and we'll end up... It won't be useful because it's not cut and dry for a flat Earth argument. So what happens whenever that's the case? They'll turn it into a globe proof. So I then spent the rest of the evening, as a baller, fighting the globe proof side of that argument to Anthony to try and discourage him from presenting it as flat Earth proof, which it is, but only if you experienced it there and then and saw everything that proved you were at St. Bees. There was nothing in that imagery. She did spin around, and it was dusk, so you could just about make out stuff in the background that was clearly at St. Bees. Just. So, yeah, you could just about wangle it, and that's why Anthony fought so hard to present it as proof. Now, I don't know, I've never asked him since. I hate bringing it up, because I still, to this day, think it's a crappy image. But would you still want to present that as flat Earth proof if you haven't got this half-an-hour contextual discussion to go with it, Anthony?
Right, 2 points. It came on the back of Miles Delia Davis. That was the background to it. He said that if we could get his observation from the car park, then he would reconsider his position. That was why we went to the car park to do it. Secondly, even though I strongly disagreed with Nathan at the time, in the end, I reluctantly agreed with him, and I went back and got it from the beach. So the beach is about 20 foot low or 30 foot low or whatever height it is, 50 foot if you're a ball earther. So I went and got it back from the beach, lay down. So overall, it got superseded in the long term anyway. But back then, it was the progression of the point that we were working on. And Nathan was like, it's not as strong as what you think it is. Because, like, what is it essentially? It's a black screen with dots in the middle that could be anything. That's what they'll say. And like Nathan's right. If you were there at the time, real world, you were stood there with a camera on the tripod and we're looking into the blackness of night and we can see the lighthouse flashing away. You got to squint a little bit. You got to zoom in with the camera a little bit. But nonetheless, it's definitely there. And for us, it was euphoric. But you had to be there to experience it. Once it's reduced down to a video that you present on screen, there's nothing in it. It's a black screen with just dots in the middle. It doesn't mean anything. You had to experience it to understand the point. So even though I didn't agree with Nathan, in the end, I reluctantly agreed with him and I went back and got it lay on the beach instead. So that superseded it.
Exactly. And all of those arguments ended in the same thing. This isn't presentable or representable by way of your begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator. When we take it as it stands, you've got to start manipulating the figures to get it to work. Well, that was the only win that you could take away from that argument in a mix of things that they said we got wrong, which we did. You're like, yeah, well, we're trying to investigate the nature of our reality, having recently found out that we've been lied to on a massive scale. So then we're into being ridiculed, talked down to, told stupid constantly, and trying to battle our way through that with a limited understanding of the subject matter. We didn't know we were begging the question at the time. We didn't know that every single time we entered into that discussion, we lost. Now, after the fact, we did, and we could laugh about it and go, yeah, literally every time we started talking about how much should or shouldn't be seen in a begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking curve calculator, we've lost every time. But you've got to go through that experience. It's a baptism of fire. Is any of that useful for the ball, though? Did any of that result in something that they could take? How many times has anybody from that day to this seen some globe head hold up the Isle of Man like it was some really cool globe proof? Far from it. Not at all.
I'd say that was a pretty dope, I guess, time when we started thinking, wait a minute, every time we use this Earth curve calculator, what are we gonna get? Earth curve? Begging the question from jump.
Yep, you've lost the moment you use it. And you lost because you're going to start qualifying what should or shouldn't be there on a ball. So when something's not in the right position, it's not in the right position for a ball. It's like, no, it was never in the wrong position, you're just seeing it. There's nothing wrong with just seeing stuff at a distance. It's only a problem if you've got a question that's being begged of a sphere Earth beneath your feet. Then it's a problem that needs answering. And we're answering it for them and debating it for them, reaffirming all of the glober's position that it's in the wrong place on a sphere, and doing the same for all the flat Earth audience as well. It's terrible, really. You know, we were part of the problem back then.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Yeah, I posted another video. It's off topic of what we're talking about. Into Master B. It's one that was sent to me recently by Rachie again, and it's about liquids in near zero G. And she was like, she was looking at it, kind of going, I don't know what to make out of this. And it's an interesting little video if anyone wants to look at it. And it's entropy. The cause of what's happening is entropy. That's the cause of what's happening. But it was like, it was a confusion. And I know the ballers, I haven't seen it from any of the ballers, but obviously they were sharing it around, and they obviously shared it with her. But it's liquids in near zero G. Zero G. That's begging the question, and it's nonsense for a start. But basically, what happens is they have water in. They have two tubes in a rocket, and they have water in both of them. But in one of them, they have oil with the water, and the other one they have high pressure air at high pressure in. And what happens is they shoot the rocket up, and the rocket goes at a reasonable speed at first, and then it just suddenly takes off. And when it takes off, it suddenly just goes high fast. And what happens is that the higher pressure air tries to equalize, and it can't leave the tube at the top, so it ends up going out into pushing the water out of the way, going through the water and pushing the water to the top. And the air is at the bottom and the water is at the top, so they're more dense. is at the top. But what the air is trying to do is it's trying to escape to equalize. That's what it's trying to do. And that's how it ends up at the bottom. And in the other tube, there's a small amount of air at the very top of the oil. They have water and then oil, and they have a small amount of air at the very top of the oil. And that does try to do the same thing, but that ends up getting caught between the water and the oil, and you end up with air bubbles and kind of messing around with the tube. Whereas it's not so clear cut because there's only a small bit of air that wasn't as at the same amount of pressure. But all that's happening is the air is just trying to equalize, and it's trying to get out the end of the tube to equalize, and that's basically what's going on with both tubes. But the ballers have been throwing this video around. Now, I hadn't seen it before, but they've been supposedly throwing it around as a kind of a disproof of relative density, and that it's not. And even the guy who's made the thing, makes the video, doesn't know what's happening. And what happens is that when the parachute comes out and this rocket starts coming back down, it suddenly goes back to normal with the water at the bottom. And the reason that happens is because it gets back to a point where the air doesn't feel the same need to try to equalize with the outside.
Good stuff. I tried to follow along. I had some screen captures of it moving along as you were talking, so cool. I'll check it out in a bit more detail after the fact.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks. I thought
Yeah, I
everyone's
think
gonna...
what QE's doing is the best. Dropping anchor at the scientific method, sticking with that. Share the show, and more people will start learning the scientific method, and that's the perfect defense for anything.
Well, it's not a defense. It's something that you should be asking yourself when you hear it claimed. All right, this is science, is it? Okay. Well, if you've got a good understanding of what that means, and somebody's actually in front of you, you can ask a few questions, or you can follow along with what they're actually claiming and make the decision for yourself based on what they're claiming. Then you can go about your day. You don't need to get into a row with them.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Where's that science again? No? All right, thanks.
No. Well, I want to have a discussion with
It's
you.
an established standard, isn't it? It's a standard that we have to measure ourselves by.
Yeah.
So,
What's up, Jin?
Hey, Jin.
How you doing, my friends? How you doing?
Very well. Good to
I've
have
been
you.
listening.
What up, Jim?
Very good. Nice one, guys. I've been listening all the way, and I agree with what Nathan's saying, and Chocolate and Elijah, and all the others there. Don't waste your time with it, really. Don't waste your time with it.
No, a lot of us aren't on the same page, though, Jin. I mean, yes, you listed the people who were me, Eli, and Chocolate, basically, and you.
I might just say for people who are new to the scientific method, who might listen to this, as I say, because there is a lot of people out there who are new to it, and they might end up speaking with the ballers, and they might end up trying to speak to them and use terms like independent and dependent variable, and they might get them mixed up, because I've heard that happen. I've actually heard that happen. Until you totally understand what all the terms mean, just think about natural cause to natural effect. So if you're debating with any of the ballers or anyone else, and they start calling something an experiment, the first thing you should ask is, what was the naturally observed phenomenon that led to this experiment? And if that person then says, well, we saw something happen inside a gyro compass, right, or something like that. Well, that then is something that's happening within a man-made device. So that's not natural science. Okay, that's not the natural world. So that you don't need to worry about all the terms, independent, dependent variable, control variables, null hypothesis. Don't get into all that. Just think cause and effect, natural cause and natural effect, because that's all the scientific method is based on, finding the natural cause to a naturally observed effect. So just find out what it was that started the supposed investigation that brought on this claimed experiment, and then find out if it was a naturally observed effect, or if it was something that was within a man-made device. And over the course of time, when you learn all the terms and how to put them together and what the steps mean, which you will do after a while, but sometimes it can be a bit confusing, then you can start using terms like independent and dependent variable. But until then, just think of cause, effect. They're claiming an effect. What they're claiming a cause to an effect. What was this effect? Was it natural? No. Well, the cause is man-made. You don't have to worry about it after that. If it was a natural effect, you still just stick to cause and effect. Because you can end up, people can get mixed up trying to use terms. It's the same happened with Coriolis. Can get mixed up when you're trying to use terms. Just keep it as simple as possible. Don't waste your time trying to get into the nitty-gritty of the terms. Once you're dealing with natural cause to a natural effect, that's all you have to worry about.
Perfect. That's going to be my cue to round out this show. So with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, there is a link to get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Once again, a massive thank you to all of you for tuning in. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!